folks, I'm Jack Watson, UI UX designer, illustrator, animator, donut connoisseur, and we'll be creating a bandana design for today's Illustrator challenge. There are links in the description below this video where you can download your starter file to create along with us, as well as links to our Illustrator Discord. Let's hop on over. And aside from notes and a few resources for you to browse if you wish, like I always include in your starter file, there's not much in here. I have a 22 by 22 inch square artboard, which is a standard bandana size. The artboard, by the way, it's this black border with this white kind of area on the inside. Your Illustrator, if you've got light mode, you might just not have this gray area. That's okay. Just anywhere where this black border is going to be where your artboard is. It's going to come into play here in a second. But to get started, make sure that you have smart guides on. So we're going to be doing a lot of stuff with alignment today, and it's going to make things a little bit easier for us. If you go up to view, and if we go all the way down here, you can notice that I've got smart guides checked on. There's a little check mark next to it indicating that it's activated. That's just, like I said, going to make things a little bit easier for us today. So the first kind of step in this is we're going to start to kind of lay out our bandana. We're going to be creating kind of like a traditional bandana design with like a border and like radial symmetry at the center of it. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to start. Most of our design is going to involve the shape tools today. So if you click and hold on whichever shape tool you see activated, you might see the ellipse tool. You're going to want to switch to the rectangle tool. Any of these tools, most of them, you can click and hold to open up a little sub menu that's going to have a bunch more options if you don't see the one that you're looking for. And with our rectangle tool, we are going to use our smart guides. Mine are actually indicating, you can see these little pink lines and some pink text or magenta text. You might have cyan. It's really just kind of depends on your Illustrator setup. And I'm going to go to that top right corner to the bottom, the top left to the bottom right corner. So basically from the whole size of my artboard, I'm going to fill with a shape here so I can start to add a background color to this. Now, switching over to my fill and stroke down here, if I click on either one of these, I can bring one or the other to the front. I want to bring my stroke to the front first because I'm going to go over here to my swatches panel. I'm going to set that to none. I don't want to have a stroke on this. I don't need it. I only need to have a fill color. Now I can go back over here and double clicking, so clicking once is going to bring it to the front, double clicking is going to bring up my color picker, and from here I can go ahead and pick a background color that I want for my design. Now keep in mind that the background color that you pick is going to kind of set the tone for the rest of your design. I'm going to be making a Thanksgiving or a fall themed design, so I'm going to start with kind of like warmer colors. I'm going to start with lighter colors as well because I'm going to be adding some darker elements over top, some oranges, some browns maybe. And so I'm going to go ahead and pick like a lighter color. If you're planning on adding some darker element or some lighter elements over top, so your design's going to have like, you know, lighter colors instead of darker colors, you're going to want to start with a darker background. So just kind of do the opposite so that you have good contrast when you're putting together your design. Or design a fall designed bandana with me. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm going to hit OK. Like I said, it just kind of needs to be a beige color. And we're going to add some colors over top. I'm also going to, while we're at it, we're going to, like I said, I want to kind of block in this composition a little bit. So we've got our background color. And if I hover over, actually I'll deselect so I can show you. If I hover over the center of my shape here, once I hit dead center with the smart guides, it's going to actually give me a little indicator that says I'm at the center of my design. And I can drag out another rectangle here, and as I do that, you can see by default it kind of drags out from where I've clicked, from the center. If I want to change that behavior, I can hold down Alt or Option, and now it's going to drag a shape out from that center point outward instead of being kind of like dragging it out from the center, if that makes sense. I know, it's sort of the same language, but I hope you get the idea. And I'm also going to hold down Shift. So because my design is a 22 by 22 inch square, if I drag out a square holding down Shift as well, it's going to fit the border of my design kind of perfectly here. And again, we're going to pick another color. I'm going to go back over to my fill and stroke here, and I'm going to switch them one more time. And I'm going to apply a stroke color to this. I'm going to double click into my stroke color. Again, here you could pick really kind of any color. We could go like a brown. We could go like a complementary color, like maybe a dark green. That might be nice with some of the fall colors. Once you got that applied, up at the top, it's a little bit hard to see right now. because it is sort of thin in the grand scheme of things in the size of my document. So up in the control bar or in the stroke panel, wherever you prefer, you can increase the stroke weight. You can either select from the drop down, you can type in a number. I'm just going to use the up arrow key on my keyboard. You can use the up or down arrow keys on your keyboard, and that'll increase or decrease the stroke width until you get it, sort of how you want it to look. All right, the other option that we can do, and this is totally up to you, we can do the same thing with the ellipse tool hovering over the center. Like I said, this kind of style of bandana, it's going to have like a radial element at the center with a border on the outside, and those are kind of important elements, and then we're going to kind of tie them together at the end. So speaking of elements, I'm just going to delete that for now. In this working space, I mentioned this was going to be important before, we can use this kind of space outside of our canvas to create some assets that we can use in our design. So out here, I'm going to create some fall elements. I'm going to create maybe, we'll do some leaves. You can let me know in the chat. We've got a live chat here on Behance and on YouTube. You can let me know in the chat what kind of items we should add to our kind of fall themed design. I'm going to start with some leaves while you all contemplate that. Hello to Apurva, Mohammed, welcome everybody. So switching back over to my rectangle tool, clicking and dragging, I'm just going to drag out a perfect square by holding down Shift. And then I'll switch my fill and stroke, so we've got a square again. And I'm going to show you, this is a little tip, a little trick that I like to do for creating some simple leaves in a very geometric kind of a style. So I created my square, and with my direct selection tool this time, you can see if I click on my whole object, I'm going to have all 4 of these anchor points selected at once. And you can tell that they're selected because they have this kind of filled in look to them. If I go down here, these ones are not selected and they have like a little hollow appearance to them. Down here, those oak leaves that I've got in the description card would be nice too. Corey's saying, yes, if you want to, feel free to steal the assets that I have provided for you in the starter file. So you can throw those leaves in your design as well if you want to use those leaves instead. But I'm going to show you how to make leaves as well. So with our first point selected, I'm going to select the top left one to get started. And you'll notice when it's selected, I get a corner radius widget as well. I get that little circle there in the corner. That lets me know that I can pull that corner to round it or use any kind of live corners on that. So I'm also going to select the bottom right corner, holding down Shift. So holding down Shift to select the top and the bottom corners, dragging those in, I'm going to round them out to just create a nice leaf shape. I'm going to make a couple variations of this. So holding down Option, I can drag out a couple of copies here. I would recommend maybe sticking with, I didn't hold down Option, hold on. I would recommend maybe sticking with like 3 or 4. I wouldn't do much more than that because you're going to start to get a lot of colors and it's going to become a little bit more difficult to keep things cohesive. Like roughly 5 colors is a good amount to start with. So we've got our beige, we've got our green. Let's go ahead and add some more fall colors. I'm going to double click into my color picker and I'm going to switch down to adding like a nice gold color. That's not very gold. There we go. That's a little bit better. With the color picker here, I just want to point this out real quick. This bar is going to let you change the hue. So that's the actual, the color, red, yellow, blue, etc. On our slider here, this square, you can actually think of this setup kind of like a grid. So from left to right, that's going to adjust the saturation. So if I bring it all the way to the top, I can make it have more or less of that intense, rich yellow. From the top to the bottom, that's going to adjust my value, so how light or dark. So if you think about that, you can kind of drag it and say, well, I want it to be relatively saturated, relatively yellow, and I also want it to be a little bit dark so that I can kind of pull that down. So just kind of a little tip for you for working with the color picker there. And I'm just going to go through and pick a couple of colors here. We're going to go with our orange because, it's fall. We got to have an orange in here. Go with something like that. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to add a red. Now, I could just go add like a red here. I like to go a little bit into the cooler reds. So I'm going to go with kind of like a little, almost like a burgundy or like a maroon kind of a color. Okay. Let's see. What else should we add? No, I've got no suggestions from the chat. We're going to add another element that's going to be kind of like it's going to kind of look like a floral element or maybe like little like X's. So I'm going to grab a copy again, holding down Alt or Option to make a copy of my first green leaf here. And we're going to go to Object, Transform, Reflect. And I'm going to reflect it vertically first. Ooh, cranberry. Love that suggestion. We should do a cranberry. It's super easy as well. We can actually use the asset that we're making right now. So we're going to go to a vertical axis here, and we want to hit copy. So if we hit OK, that's going to just flip our artwork. We want to hit copy to make a copy of it. We'll drag it over to the side here to line it up with our other one. And then I'm going to select both of these elements and go to Object, Transform, and Reflect, and choose horizontal this time and hit copy. So we've made like a little X, right? Drag to select all of those and hit Command or Control G to make a group. It's going to make it easier for us to kind of move things around. Holding down Shift, I'll scale it down. And then I'm just going to make, again, a bunch of copies here. I'm just making elements for myself so that I can have things to play around with the repeats. With the eyedropper, I can go ahead and grab the colors that I already have selected to keep everything kind of consistent in the same color palette. And then if we wanted to make a cranberry, like Cody suggested, I can go and grab the ellipse tool. We can just drag out. We've already got this nice red that's going to work well for our cranberry color. And I am going to grab my X element. I'm going to hit Option and drag. I need to go to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front to bring that in front of my design. And let's actually, I'm going to actually change my mind. I'm going to grab the cranberry color and I'm going to make this a little bit lighter. So we're going to go with like a lighter color here and then just scale this down. This is sort of like where the stem of the cranberry would be if this was an actual cranberry, right? And if we wanted to add a little bit of shading to this, I'm going to hit Command C and Command V, scale this down a little bit. And we'll just add that same color here to add like a little bit of a highlight. You can keep going with this. I'm going to double click in here and make this a little bit darker. See, now you're getting me all fancy with it. Copy and paste this again. We'll do like a little highlight. Something like that. So now our cranberry has a little bit of a highlight to it, right? As an example, if you wanted to add a cranberry, you could keep playing around and get maybe something that looks a little bit better. Than me. I would probably move these around a little bit, so I'd move my highlight and shadow kind of up a little bit more. Rotate these. Something like that. All right, so let's do one more element. I'm going to do an acorn, so I'm going to go over here, grab our rectangle tool, and I'm going to drag out. I don't necessarily need a square for this one, and just a rectangular shape is fine. I'm going to grab my lighter yellow color, and this is going to be kind of like the base of my acorn. So to create an acorn, we need to add that little point at the bottom of the acorn. So to do that, I'm going to switch to my pen tool. And hovering again using Smart Guides until I can see the center indicator, I'm going to add a point just by clicking with the pen tool at the bottom. And then I can use the arrow key to move my point down, or I can go over to the direct selection tool and just kind of pull it down. We're going to need to use the direct selection tool here in a minute anyways. And then to make this look like an acorn, we need to round out the corners just like we did the leaf here. So I'm going to click the left corner, holding down Shift, and click the right corner. And I'm just going to drag these out to round them out a little bit. Now you can go all the way. Kind of looks like a little bit of a shield if you were going for like, if your design was more I don't know, medieval. But I'm not going to round them out all the way. I'm just going to round them out a little bit so it gets that kind of like acorn shape somewhat rounded at the bottom. And then I'm going to hover over the center again. Lots of center alignment in this. And I'm going to hold down Option to drag out another rectangle. And this is going to be the hat on our acorn. So we're just going to drag it out a little bit from the center. I'm not holding down Shift or anything. Double click to make my color a little bit darker. So we're going to go with like a darker brown. And then our acorn needs to have a round hat, so switching to my direct selection tool, I'm going to round the whole thing out. There we go. Now, we need to have a little stem on this. Now I'm going to use a tool that I don't use often, but it does have kind of its place. So in the line tool, like I showed earlier, if you click and hold, you can switch to these other options down here. And we're going to switch to the arc tool. And if you drag out with the arc tool, you can see that it kind of creates a nice arch shape for you. But if you hold down Shift, it'll constrain it, so it'll be like a perfect arc here for a stem. I'm going to eyedropper that color there for our fill, switch our fill and stroke, and then we'll just, again, using the up arrows, increase the line weight until we're kind of satisfied with that. And then I can drag it over using my Smart Guides to kind of align it to the center. It looks like it needs to be scaled down a little bit. The nice thing about, leaves and acorns is, they don't have to be perfect. They're organic. So as long as they all kind of you are identifiable as the thing that we need to create and you want them to be, then we're all good. So I'm going to hit Command G to make a group. So we've got a couple of assets here. Let's start to put together a design. Yes, unicorn, medieval. Maybe you want a shield. Maybe you want to go that route. So let's start to use some of our repeats. I'm going to start with this leaf here, and we're going to make a border, because when I'm thinking about putting together and I just hit Command C and Command V to copy and paste that. When I'm thinking about putting together a bandana, I want to think about what's the center element going to be here and what's kind of like going to be on the border. And then once I've got those two elements, I can start to fill in the rest with, similarly themed items. Up at the top here under Object and under Repeat, you'll notice that we've got all of your repeats are going to be in this menu. So Object, Repeat, we've got Radial, we've got Grid, we've got Mirror. And the names should kind of give you a clue as to what they do. Radial is going to create something that's got circular radial symmetry. Grid's going to create something that's on a grid, and Mirror is going to, do like a butterfly kind of a look, right? So we are going to pick the grid repeat to get started, and we're going to make basically each column of our design here. So to get started, each side of these, it's going to give you, when you hit that, it's going to give you like a start. It's going to start making the pattern for you. And on the left and the right, we've got these, or on the right and the bottom, we've got these large handles. And if we pull them, we can notice that it's going to extend our design down and to the right. And my advice for you here is make sure that you've got this kind of like, we're making these two columns that are going to be our border. So make sure that you've got the this grid repeat kind of situated at the top and the bottom of this column. And it'll make sense in a minute. And now at the top here, this double set of arrows is going to space out our design, the columns, or it's going to add more row space essentially. So we can bring it all the way across. So now we've got our two sets of border there. And then we can drag out the spacing on the opposite side so that we can have a set number of, leaves on either side here essentially. And then we can go up to, there's one more thing we can do. Sorry, I was thinking. We can go up to Object, and we've got a couple more options specifically regarding the grid repeat. So if we go into Options at the bottom of the menu list, you can see you tab through and see all the different ones. But under Grid, we can actually adjust the way that the columns and the rows behave. So we can either offset them, which would work well if you were doing a design where you didn't want things to line up perfectly on a grid. So you can offset either the rows or the columns, depending on what you're kind of creating. In this case, we're going to use the flip options. So the flip is going to allow us to flip the elements in each row or in each column. So to get started, I'm going to flip the row. So now you can see each one of these rows alternates as we go down. And then we can also flip the column. So now we've got kind of it mirrored on either side. So you can see this one is at an angle kind of outward of the artboard, and so is this one. So they kind of mirror each other on either side. And then we're going to hit OK. And it's real easy to create our top rows here. I'm just going to hit Command C and Command F to copy and paste in front. And then I can just rotate holding down Shift 90 degrees. It does look like I need to bump this down a little bit, so I'm just going to use the arrow keys to get everything kind of like lined up in my frame here. So there's our border. We could add maybe our cranberries to the corners if we wanted to. Might look nice there. Let's make sure we select our cranberry. Here we go. If we wanted to, we could kind of go in there and we could use, I'll show you in a second. But I want to get the, we can use the mirror repeat, but I want to set up this central kind of element here. So I want the acorns to be kind of like the focus, since we put a lot of effort into our acorns, right? So I'm going to hit Command C and Command V to copy and paste our acorn, scale it down a little bit. And then I'm going to put it in the center to make things kind of easier for myself. And I'm going to rotate it a little bit at like a 45-degree angle. And the next repeat that we're going to look at is going to be the mirror repeat. And we can do the same thing with these cranberries here in a second. But with the mirror repeat, you get two options on this kind of symmetry line, these two circles. And the one that's farthest away from your design is going to allow you to rotate this line of symmetry so that wherever that rotation is where the object flips. The other option, which is the circle that's closest to your design, is going to increase or decrease the space. So I can pull the spacing out to space these out a little bit farther if I wanted to. And if we want to get out of this, all we have to do is we have to hit escape. So we're in kind of like an isolation mode. So if we hit escape, it's going to let us kind of get out of this isolation mode. We can drag this kind of back to the center. If you're having trouble with the center alignment, up here, if you've got align to artboard selected under this drop down next to the alignment tools, we can just use the horizontal align center to get everything kind of aligned back up. Now we can also combine these. So if we go to object and we add another repeat, Stoney wants to go over what those double lines did. I'll show you again here. We're going to go to repeat and we're going to go to mirror. So we're going to add another mirror repeat to this. And you can see here now how that line comes into play. This line is flipping those two, so they're sitting next to each other. If we rotate this, now this is going to be the top dot up here, the one that's farthest away from our art. That's going to allow us to flip it so that they are mirrored the other way. If you're having trouble getting these lined up in the top of your toolbar or your control bar, you can just select this and type in 0. That's going to flip it the other way. And again, we have the same options. We can space these out if we want to give this a little bit more space to kind of create our center design. And then we're going to hit escape. Again, if you want to get this centered and you're having trouble with the smart guides, you can use the alignment tools there to get it recentered back into place. Again, you can do the same thing with the cranberry. So we can go to object, we can go to repeats, and we can do another mirror repeat, and we can space that out as such, and we can flip it in both directions. But let's get to our last repeat before we get too far. I want to go over the radial repeat. So for that one, we're going to go ahead and grab our flowery leaf elements. We don't have a lot of green in here yet, so I'm going to go ahead and grab the green. Command C and Command V to make a copy of that. I'm going to put it at the center. It's going to make things a little bit easier, and you'll see why in a sec. So we're going to go to Object. Let's actually scale that down a little bit. There we go. Object, Repeat, and we're going to choose Radial. To zoom in a little bit here, because the radial repeat does kind of keep everything clustered together, but you're also going to get a circle on this one, lots of widgets, and you're going to get double arrows on the right, on the left side here as well. So the circle in this case is going to add more spacing, again, similar to the mirror repeat, and the double arrows, maybe you guessed it, are going to allow us to increase or decrease the number of shapes here. So we can kind of create a design that fits, and then I can drag it up using my smart guides to center it in there. So we can kind of create a design that kind of fits this radial symmetry at the center here. And again, you can increase or decrease, however many of these that you want. It's really up to you. If we want to, I think it might be nice to have another element at the center here that kind of matches. So we can grab our grab another one of these little floral elements just like that, and then we let's see, we probably have enough time to do this last one. I'm just going to copy and paste this whole set of leaves here, and let's add the last one that I think I want to add here is a set that uses all the colors of the leaves that kind of follows these angles that I've created. So I'm going to go ahead and select the two of these. I'm going to select kind of the two in the middle here, holding down Shift. I'm going to Object, Transform, Reflect, so that we can create basically two sets of leaves. So when I drag them over, I can line them up next to each other to create these pairs. And then I'm going to stack these pairs vertically. Then we're going to go to Object, we're going to go to Repeat, we're going to make a repeat grid. We're going to make a single kind of grid here. So I'm going to make a stretch of these that kind of is a single line. Scale them down, and then I'm going to place them inside of that space that I just created. I'm holding down Shift to rotate these at a perfect kind of 90 degree or 45 degree angle here. There we go. I'm going to just kind of place them inside of that space, and we can again combine our techniques here by going to Object, and we can go to Repeat, Mirror, and I can drag that so we've got our two sets of leaves on either side. Doing it one more time, Object, repeat, and I'm going to go to mirror. We're going to need to, you can see here, mirroring it side by side. So we need to go up here and switch this to be 0 so it mirrors 180 degrees instead of 90. And we can kind of create our design to look like that. We could do the same thing with our cranberries since we've got a couple of minutes left here. We can go to repeat. We can add another mirror repeat side by side. So we want to switch that to 90 or 180. So let's just go 90 and bring it down. There we go. Now that we've got kind of like the basic structure of this, my advice would be to keep going and fill in some of these spaces that we've got here. So I would either add some more of the leaf elements, you could add some more acorns in here, and just start to sort of fill this out now that we've got the basic symmetry kind of set up here. So that's what I'd go ahead and do if I was going to keep working on this. But let's say that we want to share this with everybody in the community. We're going to go to File, Export for Screens. We're going to choose a location. We're just going to grab something on our desktop. And then for sharing to Discord, you're going to want to either select PNG or JPEG. You can see here proof that my artboard only shows the artwork that I created on my artboard, nothing outside of it. We can go to our Discord and we can upload it just by dragging it into our Discord and sharing it with everybody for some feedback. But that is going to be all that we have time for today. Please feel free to share it either on social media, tag Adobe Live on Instagram, or share it in our Discord. Hopefully you learned a bit about repeat tools and how to use them. You could also incorporate objects on a path for this challenge as well. We're live once a week on Tuesdays at 12 p.m. Pacific time at behance.net/Adobe Live and on the Adobe Live YouTube channel. The Photoshop challenge is next, so stay right here and I will see you all next time. Bye everyone!